it is a cloudy day. And when I mean cloudy day, I mean cloudy day here in Central Illinois this Thursday. Yesterday, it was a little bit on the strong side for weather, and it was just didn't feel, good. Now we feel good, at least a little bit. It's cloudy, but it's cooler. We feel good. It's a little bit of a cooler spring here in Central Illinois, and we're ready to rock and roll with some more spring outlooks. Last time we went with 4 SEC teams. Now we're kind of mixing it up. 2 ACC teams on tap, along with 2 SEC teams on tap here on this beautiful and cloudy Thursday afternoon. Guys, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, listening on Podbean, you're listening on Apple, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage and some spring football coverage presented by me. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X and Instagram, at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow out the pages there. You're going to get news and highlights from across college football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories, going to answer today's college football question, as well as all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy and exclusive content of Pigskin Frenzy. There's the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you will find all things up to date for Pigskin Frenzy. You will find a home and about me page. Learn more about me as your podcast host. There's a contact info down below that homepage. Name, email, question. I'll answer it on air or off air if need be. There is also a store and a platform affiliations page. More on that one coming soon. There's also our platforms page, all the platforms I just mentioned just a minute ago. All that and more as we continue to regularly update the website here at Pigskin Frenzy, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, we're ready to rock and roll with some more spring outlooks. I'm excited. We went over Georgia, Texas A&M, Texas, and Oklahoma this past Tuesday, episode 210. Go and give that one a listen. You're not going to want to miss this one here today, episode 211 of Pigskin Frenzy. I hope everybody's doing great today. The Lord has given us this beautiful day and this platform to talk about some spring football, and I'm ready to rock and roll with it, and we are blessed to be here, and we are ready to rock and roll. Guys, we have 2 ACC teams on tap, and we're going to get started with the 2 ACC teams on tap. 2 contenders in the ACC, and I think they're a contender at least starting off with. And then we got 2 SEC teams who, 1, shocked the world last year, and 2, is still trying to find their way back into the fold, into the conference. And we're going to just get right to it without any further ado. Let's kick it off with our first spring outlook, and we're going to go with Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, and I said this last year that Georgia Tech was a team in the ACC that last year when we were going to the 2024 season to watch out. I had them high, like a little bit higher on my conference standing projections last year before the season started because I was high on this Georgia Tech team. I thought they were going to be talented. They were going to be ready to rock and roll. Buster Faulkner at OC is a solid addition. He's no joke. And guess what? They proved me right. First week 0, I'm sorry, not really first week, but week 0, they end up beating Florida State in Dublin, the defending ACC champions in Dublin, Ireland, off of a field goal, 24-21. Florida State went on to have a not-so-good season. Georgia Tech had an up-and-down season. They gave a lot of fight to a lot of teams, including an 8-overtime loss against Georgia. In that first half of the game, though, Georgia Tech was all over the Dogs in Sanford Stadium in Athens, Georgia. It was a frenzy, no pun intended, of a game when Georgia Tech was involved in that one. Georgia Tech has played a lot of teams closer. They upset Miami and gave Miami its first loss of the season. They handled Cam Ward really, really well. Solid football team they were last year. They played Vanderbilt, another shocker, and we're going to get to Vanderbilt here in a little bit, in the Birmingham Bowl, and lost that bowl game. But Georgia Tech is still a team that I would watch out for. Brent Key has recruited well. He recruited well this past offseason for the 2025 class. He is starting off hot in the recruiting trail now. He is a coach that is changing the trajectory of this program around and making Georgia Tech something to fear again. The last time Georgia Tech was, I wouldn't say really relevant, but also really good, was around 2014 when they had Justin Thomas at quarterback. They played Mississippi State against Dak Prescott in the Orange Bowl and won. Huge They're a huge team. They're a really good football team. And they're a really good football team. Now they kind of just lost its lackluster. And now a lot of talent, a lot of their coaching staff's put together. Brent Key is trying to do something in Atlanta, Georgia, and he is ready to rock and roll this season coming up. I am really high on Georgia Tech. I think they got a lot of talent, and I think they can make a splash since they brought a lot of guys back. They did lose a couple of good pieces in the transfer portal, but they're bringing a lot of guys back, and I am excited to see where it goes, and I'm excited to see how they are going to be heading in to the 2025 season. But here is what I want to see from Georgia Tech in the spring outlooks for them, and I'm curious to see what Brent Key's got going on. In the spring, their spring game is on April 12th. April 12th is their spring game. That's next Saturday, not this Saturday, but next Saturday is their spring game, and their spring concludes there. Head coach Brent Key, offensive coordinator Buster Faulkner, both return. They have a new defensive coordinator. Blake Gideon has been promoted, and he came from Texas. Blake Gideon did. Blake Gideon comes from Texas, and he is ready to rock and roll, and he is ready to go, and he is ready to, he is ready to rock and roll and ready to go here. And Blake Gideon is now with the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets as the defensive coordinator. So that's an outlook there, and I'm going to get to that here in a little bit. But number one, and this is what I want to see for Georgia Tech going in, because last year was about the linebackers and everything, and they stepped up. They did. They had a really, really good season. They stepped up. They made some good strides and good plays this season. Here's what I want to see, number one, from Georgia Tech. And number one is about the defense. Number one is the foundation with Blake Gideon's defense, the structure, the foundation, the playbook. How's it going to look and be structured different than last year's Georgia Tech defense? How is it going to change the culture and foundation of that defense? That's what I really want to see. That's the number one outlook that I want to see from Georgia Tech this spring and in the spring game. What's the foundation of that defense going to look like, and how elite are they going to be, or are they going to be even more elite in the ACC coming into the 2025 season and this spring? So that's number one for me with Georgia Tech. Number two, speaking of defense, the pass rush. The pass rush on defense. The effective pass rush, how's it going to be effective into the 2025 season? You got Mercer transfer, Braden Manley, and you got true freshman Andre Fuller at the edge for the defensive line. How is the pass rush going to look in the defensive line for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets? How are they going to look there? And what's it going to happen when they are, using that in full force, right? That's what I'm curious about, and that's what I want to see for Georgia Tech there. So that's number two for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Number three, and what I want to see from them. Eric Singleton's out the window. He's gone. He is at Auburn. Who do they have for Georgia Tech to lead the hymn on everything? Who do they have? Who's going to be their wide receiver number one for Haynes King? That's what I want to see, and that's the third outlook I want to see from Georgia Tech. Who is going to lead the hymn and be the go-to wide receiver for Haynes King going into this season and this spring? As I pull up my notes, Eric Singleton was a dominant player, and we're going to talk about that when we get to Auburn's spring outlook, because I'm doing a spring outlook on them. I'm so curious about what he's going to bring to the table there. But who is going to be that guy to step up? You got Eric Rivers, 175 pounds, redshirt senior, 5'11". He could be that guy for Haynes King and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets now that Eric Singleton is gone. You also got Isaiah Canyon, sophomore, 6'4", 210 pounds. He's a big, tall wide receiver. He's got some built to him, and he could be that bulky wide receiver who can help out Eric Rivers along with Haynes King throwing him the ball. So those two guys are the options, but who steps up as that true wide receiver one for that team this spring and going into the 2025 season now that Eric Singleton is not there? So those are the three things that I want to see from Georgia Tech and what I want to see going into the 2025 season. Number one, the structure of that defense, the foundation of the defense, how's it going to look, and how's everything going to be heading in to the 2025 season foundation-wise with the defense. Number two, I want to see I want to see the pass rush. I want to see the development of the pass rush and use those pass rushers to good use and how effective it's going to be during the spring. And then number 3, I want to see who's the number 1 wide receiver for Haynes King, whether it's Isaiah Canyon or whether it's Eric Rivers. I want to see who the number 1 wide receiver is for Georgia Tech in the spring and heading in to fall camp in the 2025 season. That's what I want to see from them heading in to the season. Georgia Tech spring games on April 12th. Go and support them. I am really high on this football team. I think they have the talent to make noise, and I'm curious to see what they do in the spring and heading into the 2025 season. We will have a spring results episode on Georgia Tech and then within the next few weeks. Let's go back and let's now go to the next ACC team, the team that beat them. The team that not beat Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech beat in the season. And that, my friend, is Miami. We're going to Miami, Florida. Miami, a team with a what could have been season last year. Mario Cristobal had this team ready to rock and roll, undefeated against Georgia Tech. As the games went on with Cam Ward at quarterback for this team, Cam Ward was an electric quarterback. They have Xavier Restrepo. They had a lot of guys on this team, and a lot of guys in this receiving core a lot of them were still there. But they have a lot of guys who on this offense that made it click, and this offense was one of the best and one of the premier offenses in college football. Miami started off hot by beating Florida badly in the season opener in Gainesville. Cam Ward ended up being an early Heisman favorite. He ended up not winning the Heisman. I think he got 3rd place, if I'm not mistaken. Cam Ward was a quarterback that was just taking strides and making everything electric and making that offense just, click, right? Making it just gel. And Miami's offense looked solid. They looked solid. And then they got into some games where it was like, okay, they're getting close. It was like, okay, they won. They were blowing people out. Then they started playing games a little bit closer, and they escaped. Okay, you're thinking, okay, that's just a one and done. Then they played another game, and they escaped. And you're thinking, okay, they got away with their hair on the chinny chin there. Just by the hair of their chinny chin, they got away with it. Then the next game, they're like, oh, okay, you actually almost lost that when you really didn't outplay them. It's just getting worse there. The bye week rolled around, and then you're thinking, okay, they had another good blowout week. They did really, really good. And then they played another game when I was like, okay, you're playing them really close. And then all of a sudden, Georgia Tech rolls around. They get their first loss. They ended up going to the month of November with something to prove. They ended up going to play Syracuse, and the winner of that game was going to play, if Miami would have lost, they would have played SMU in the ACC championship, or would have won. Excuse me. If they would have won, they would have played SMU in the ACC championship with college football playoff implications on the line. And the one thing that wrecked them was their defense. The one thing. It was like 2023 LSU, a number 1 offense in the country, or a top 5 offense in the country, and then the defense was one of the worst in college football. Miami had that. Miami was 2023 LSU just in the ACC, but it wasn't as bad. Their defense wasn't as bad as Matt House and LSU's defense, but it was pretty rough. Lo and behold, they lose to Syracuse. Syracuse outscores them. Their whole season blows up. Instead of going to the ACC championship, Clemson goes to the ACC championship. They get kicked out of the college football playoffs, and they go to the Pop-Tart Bowl. That's not demeaning. I love the Pop-Tart Bowl, but I'm saying that their season blew up because of that defense not being able to gel. That is what happened with the Miami Hurricanes going in. A lot of people are out. Cam Ward is gone. They were looking for a quarterback. Here comes Georgia quarterback Carson Beck. We talked about him transferring to Miami Tuesday. We're talking about it now. He is now with the Miami Hurricanes, and he will be their quarterback entering this season. Carson Beck did not have a lot of the receiving help. He does now, and I think that he could showed some stride because he's got some help at receiving and for the receiving core in this season and in this spring. So we got a lot to talk about with Miami. It's an interesting thing. Miami in this season, or now for the spring. They bring back head coach Mario Cristobal. They have offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson still there. They bring in a new defensive coordinator, Corey Heatherman, new defensive coordinator. He is with the Miami Hurricanes now. That's a new thing. That is an outlook that I got for them. A lot of new coordinators on this list that we got today, but Corey Heatherman is now the new defensive coordinator for the Hurricanes. We're going to see what he does for this defense. And without any further ado, we're going to kick it off, and we're going to see about that. And the spring game's on April 12th, next Saturday, just like Georgia Tech's. We're going to see what they do in the spring. And here's what I want to see, and here's my outlook on what I want to see from Miami this spring. Number one, the structure and the foundation of that defense for Corey Heatherman. It wasn't good last year. That defense wasn't. So now that Corey Heatherman is now the new defensive coordinator, what's his plan to fix the defense? What's the playbook going to look like? What's the foundation of that defense going to look like? Who's he going to bring pieces? How many pieces are going to be in the puzzle on that defense? What's going to happen there, and what's it going to look like in the spring heading into the 2025 season? I'm pretty sure a lot of Hurricane fans are going to look and think we are so curious about what this defense is going to look like, because that defense did cost us some two big important games in the month of November and late. So that's number one. What's the foundation of that defense going to look like, and what's everything going to look like there under Corey Heatherman's defense for Miami? Number two, Carson Beck as the transition, going from Cam Ward to Carson Beck, the transition, and how is it going to look like? What's the difference quarterback-wise, and how is it going to take effect into the offense? That's what I want to see, and that's my second outlook for Miami. The transition from Cam Ward to Carson Beck. I think Cam Ward will get drafted top 3 in the draft. I'm assuming he most likely will be the number 1 pick in the draft. Going from that high-octane type offense of what Carson Beck did at Georgia, because you're starting to go a little bit of that a little bit. He just needed some help. He had it with Brock Bowers, Lyle McConkey, just not like last year. But what's the transition going to look like? What's the differences, and what's the key differences going from Cam Ward to Carson Beck? And that's what I want to see in the spring, and the adjustments there of going from a Cam Ward type quarterback to a Carson Beck type quarterback, because they have two different styles. We're going to find that out here in the spring, and that's what I want to find out heading into the 2025 season as well. And not only that, as I pull up my notes, I want to see what's going on the trenches for Miami. That's my third outlook. I want to see what's going on in the trenches, offensive line and defensive line. What's that going to look like? Is it going to be a lot better than it was? I thought they were a little bit dense on both in the line of trenches. I thought they needed to bolster up everything, which they did. I think they have emphasized building in the trenches and winning on the line of scrimmage. I want to see if they are more physical on the line of scrimmage heading into the spring on both sides of the ball, not just offense, but defensive line as well. Are they more physical on the defense on the line of scrimmage? That is my third outlook for the Miami Hurricanes entering the spring and 2025 season for the fall. Now, that is my spring outlook on Miami. Number one, what I want to see is the foundation of that defense, and how's it going to look under Corey Heatherman, and what's it going to look like, and what's it going to be? Is it going to be a lot more different and a better upgrade than last season? I think it's going to be a way better upgrade. I think. Number two, the transition from Carson Beck and Cam Ward, and going from Cam Ward to Carson Beck, and the development there. That's number two on my list. Then number three, what I want to see is the importance of the trenches. I want to see if they have emphasized on that, and I want to see if they have grown on the line of scrimmage a lot, both offense and defensive lines. I want to see if they are more physical on the line of scrimmage during this spring. Miami spring games on April 12th. That's next Saturday. Go and support your Hurricanes. And we will have an episode, the same episode as them in Georgia Tech. We will have their spring results within the next few weeks. That is two teams from the ACC. We're going to switch over to the SEC now. Two teams from the SEC, and we're going to go over to Starkville, Mississippi, and Stark Vegas, and we're going to talk about Mississippi State, a team that was a little bit cold last year. When I'm talking about cold, I'll tell you what I mean when I say cold. Number one, Mississippi State went 2-10 last year in the 2024 season. They went 2-10. That's number one. Number two, they didn't win a single conference game. They were 0-8. I get it. It's a transition period. You're going from one of the greatest coaches to do it, offensive-minded coaches to do it in Mike Leach, to Zach Arnett, who was a defensive coordinator, who was an excellent defensive coach and an excellent coordinator, just not a good football head coach, to Jeff Lebby, who is another good offensive mind, but is still trying to figure out, he's still in the mix of everything and going through the motions of trying to figure out how to be a good, solid head coach for this team. He's entering his second season. I said give Jeff Lebby time, and I have given him time, and I think his offseason starting out, at least in recruiting and in the portal, is a lot better. I think he did really, really well in the portal. I think he's added some guys in recruiting that I didn't expect them to add, and they did. I'm surprised on how well they did in both classes in transfer portal and in high school recruiting, and they have done really, really well in that. There's really not much to talk about with Mississippi State last year, but they're just rebuilding, and they're building up. And now I'm curious to see what they're going to do this season. I think Mississippi State, and you're going to go on a limb here and think, okay, this guy's absolutely insane. I think, and this is just me, Joel Norris here, I think that they have the potential to surprise some teams this season. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say they're going to go bowl eligible and all that. I just think some of the teams that they're playing this year, I think they can have a shot at making it a little bit closer than advertised. I thought in the first half of that Ole Miss game in the Egg Bowl, they played really, really well, and they almost had some points to where if they had a little bit more of the talent, and if a lot of the guys who weren't on that Ole Miss team weren't there, they could have had some key plays go their favor and actually win that Egg Bowl in Oxford. Now the game's in Starkville again. So the game's in Starkville this year. Ole Miss doesn't have the talent like they did going into this season, so it could be an opportunity to strike there. They could surprise a lot of teams, and I think that Mississippi State has that advantage going into this season with some of the talent they are pulling in from the portal and from high school recruiting. Let's go with our spring outlooks from Mississippi State. Mississippi State, and this is important, Mississippi State, has their spring game on April 12th as well. On April 19th as well. All these teams are playing regular spring games, which is crazy on our list today, but their spring game is not next Saturday. It's in 2 weeks, April 19th. They have head coach and offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby. They have defensive coordinator Coleman Hutzler, co-DC Matt Barnes, assistant head coach and pass game coordinator Anthony Tucker, all on tap and returning for their second years as Mississippi State's coaching staff and key coaching staff there. Here's our spring outlooks and what we want to see from the spring for Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State and this program. Number one, who's the starting quarterback? Michael Van Buren's out. He is gone. He is now the backup quarterback to Garrett Nussmeier at LSU and most likely will be the next starting quarterback after Derek leaves. So he's gone. He's at LSU. Now, let's talk about who the starting quarterback can be. You can go, obviously, with Blake Shapen, the graduate transfer redshirt graduate senior at Mississippi State. That's the most likely option with Blake Shapen. You also brought in a guy as I'm getting my notes there. You're also going to have another guy who just came in from the transfer portal. His name is Luke Kromenhoek. You probably are trying to get familiar with him. He was at Florida State. As I pull up my notes here, he was at Florida State. Luke Kromenhoek at Florida State, transfer sophomore quarterback. He's 6'4", 210 pounds from Savannah, Georgia. He transferred from Florida State. He played in a couple of games last year and did quite well. Made some good, accurate decisions. They landed a good one in the transfer portal. He has a shot at excelling in Jeff Lebby's offense. So, Luke Kromenhoek, and then you got Blake Shapen. Those are two quarterbacks there that you can compete with to see who's going to be the next starting quarterback for the Bulldogs. So, who's going to take that leap in the quarterback competition and who's going to get that clear edge this spring? That's number one, and what I want to see, from Mississippi State and that offense and from this team, and that's from the spring. That's number one. Number two, I want to see how physical they can be on the line of scrimmage. I want to see how much physical they can be. Just like I said with Miami, I want to see how physical they can be on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Not just the O-line, but on the defensive line as well. Just be physical. And not only that, block. I want to see their blocking. If their blocking is improved. They had a lot of trouble blocking last year. And I think some of those motions are basic stuff that they just got to get pieces together to get. They got the talent, and they brought some guys in that or improved talent, much rather, that's a good word to put it there, but to improve. And I think that being physical in the trenches is important in the SEC, especially in the SEC. Winning in the trenches is important. So I want to see if Jeff Levy's got that. I want to see what the line's going to look like and the line of scrimmage and the trenches are going to look like for Mississippi State. That is number 2 and what I want to see from them. Number 3 for what I want to see from number 3 and what I want to see from Mississippi State is I want to see who the receivers are going to be and what the depth of the receiving core is going to look like for Mississippi State. Mario Tarver is now at A&M. You also got Anthony Evans from Georgia, a huge pickup in the transfer portal there. You got Anthony Evans from Georgia. He could be your go-to wide receiver, but who else is going to step up in the receiving core for Mississippi State? They have been known to get good receivers. You got guys like Aiden Williams now who transferred from Ole Miss. He was a solid addition coming out of Ridgeland, Mississippi and Ridgeland High School. I covered him when I was in Mississippi, or when I was, in Mississippi, working on Mississippi Public Radio there. He's a solid choice there, along with Anthony Evans. Who else is going to step up at the receiving core for this team? And that's what I want to see out of the Mississippi State Bulldogs this spring. So that's my spring outlook on Mississippi State and what I want to see from them. Number 1, the quarterback competition. Who's going to win there? And who is going to be the, take that leap in the quarterback competition for Mississippi State, during the spring and heading into the fall camp. Number 2, the line of scrimmage, the importance of it. I want to see if they are bolstered up and more physical on the line of scrimmage and in the trenches. And then number 3, I want to see the depth of that receiving core besides just Aiden Williams and besides just Anthony Evans III. I want to see who is going to step up for this team at receiver, this spring heading into the fall. But that is our spring outlook on Mississippi State. Spring games April 19th, which is in 2 weeks. Go and check out your Bulldogs in Starkville. I am curious to see what they're going to do. I am surprised on how well they did in recruiting. And both ways, transfer and high school, and I'm curious to see what Jeff Levy is going to do with his program. I'm very curious to see that. So I'm a little bit high and under the radar Mississippi State. I'm not going to lie. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go with them. They could probably exceed expectations this year. So we'll see. I may be totally wrong, and I may hit, this guy's doesn't know what he's talking about, but I think the Mississippi State has a chance to be a surprise team heading in to this season. Last but not least, before we conclude today's episode of Pigskin Frenzy, let's talk about our last spring outlook, and that is the Vanderbilt Commodores. Anchor down. That is all I got to say is anchor down. Did you know, and I've said it, this is the number 1 game, our Frenzy's number 1 game of the college football season for 2024, that they beat Alabama? They beat Alabama. Their first ever win against a number 1 ranked team, AP ranked number 1 team in history, in program history. They did some great things last year. Diego Pavia won his appeal. He's back, and he's got a shot at going to the NFL next season if he continues the way he plays. He is a solid quarterback. He is back. He's won the appeal. He's got one more season in him as a graduate senior and transfer, and he is not going anywhere, using his last year of eligibility to make some noise so he can go to the NFL and make some noise for Vanderbilt football this year. Clark Lee was, to me, coach of the year in the SEC. He did a tremendous job. He beat the teams like Auburn. He beat Alabama. He played Texas close. He beat they played South Carolina. They ended up getting beat. Played Missouri really, really close and almost beat them. Ended up beating Georgia Tech. They had some good wins. Beat Kentucky. Played Tennessee close in the first half. They had a lot of games. Played LSU close to the very end. LSU ended up winning, but they played LSU close. A lot of games that they could have won, and if they would have gone a couple different ways in 2 plays, they could have had at least 9 wins. That's the best probably going to be the best. This is the best season they have had since James Franklin was their head coach. Since Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Rodgers, my bad. Jordan Rodgers was their quarterback. When Zach Stacy was their running back. When they had a lot of good talent on that team. That's how good Vanderbilt was last year. And Vanderbilt went to a bowl game. They played Georgia Tech, and they won their bowl game, ending their season on a high note. Clark Lee with a remarkable season, and they are still rocking and rolling. They got Keanu Colt, their first ever 5-star transfer or 5-star recruit in program history there. They're doing things, and Clark Lee is not backing down. He's building that program up to be not just a baseball and a basketball school, but a football school as well. Not just an academic school, but a pure gridiron football school. They're not going anywhere. They're roster building, and they're doing a heck of a job there. What a season they had last year, and I'm curious to see what they are going to do heading into the spring and 2025 season. Clark Lee is back as their head coach. Offensive coordinator Tim Beck is back for running this offense. You got defensive coordinator Steve Gregory entering his first season and being promoted as the defensive coordinator for Vanderbilt. And offensive advisor Jerry Kill, the former head coach at Minnesota, former head coach at New Mexico State with Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia knows Beck and Jerry Kill very well, so it's going to help out Pavia in a lot of ways as the offensive advisor for this Vanderbilt football team. So those two guys are new at their positions, and then you bring back Clark Lee, Tim Beck, and Steve Gregory. Their spring game is next Saturday, April 12th. Come out and see the Vanderbilt Commodores, and we're about to go with our spring outlook. So, with that being said, number one and what we want to see out of them is the backup quarterback situation for the backup quarterback situation for Diego Pavia. You got two good quarterbacks behind Diego Pavia. I want to see if both those guys can step up behind Pavia, and they're trying to set and be examples to hey, we have some depth at the quarterback position just in case anything goes down with Pavia. So that's good. I want to see the backup quarterback role and how that's going to develop for Vanderbilt. So that's number one and what I want to see out of Vanderbilt. Number two, I want to see the receiving core. I want to see what that's going to look like. You got Junior Sherrill at wide receiver. He's a solid playmaker for this team, but I want to see the other wide receivers step up and make some noise as well, and that's more depth to that receiving position. You got Richie Hoskins, graduate wide receiver transfer. Graduate wide receiver, not transfer, but graduate wide receiver, Ricky Hoskins. You also got guys at the receiving position like Jeremiah Dillon, senior from Tylertown High School. Chance Fitzgerald Jr. Got a lot of guys there. I want to see what can happen at the receiving position, how they can establish themselves as weapons behind Junior Sherrill at the receiving position. So that's number two for Vanderbilt and what I want to see out of them. Number three, what's that defense going to look like under Steve Gregory? How's it going to look in its first year, the foundation? I want to see how the playbook, the schematic, the scheme, the schematic things around that defense, how is it going to look under Steve Gregory in his first year as defensive coordinator? So that's my last point and my last thing that I want to see from Vanderbilt in the spring. So that's the three things that I want to see from Vanderbilt, and that's my spring outlook on Vanderbilt. Number one, the depth of the quarterback position behind Diego Pavia. How's that going to look behind Diego Pavia? Number two, the depth of the receiver positions. I want behind Junior Sherrill, who's going to step up at wide receiver, but just besides him. And then number three, the defensive side of the ball. I want to see how the schematic, the game plan, how's it, the foundation of that defense, how's it going to look under Steve Gregory. That's what I want to see, and that's my spring outlook on Vanderbilt football. Spring game is April 12th, next Saturday. Go and support your Vanderbilt Commodores next Saturday. That is our spring outlooks on Georgia Tech, Miami, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. That's our spring outlooks, and we are out of time. Guys, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage and some spring football coverage presented by me. Now, after watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple. All you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. X on Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow up the pages there. You're going to get news and hunts from across college football. You're going to get trivia questions on Instagram stories. Go and answer today's college football question, as well as all things of today and exclusive content from Pigskin Frenzy. There's the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. There you'll find all things going for Pigskin Frenzy. Guys, we will be back. Thank you for joining us today on this Thursday. We'll be back Tuesday. Tuesday, we have episode 212. We have Notre Dame. We have USC, SMU, and Penn State on tap. Next week is our last week and our last round of spring outlooks. Starting next Tuesday with Notre Dame, USC, SMU, and Penn State all on tap. 2 Big Ten teams, 1 ACC team, and an independent team, Notre Dame. That is Tuesday, and we'll be back Tuesday for that. For our spring outlook coverage will continue, and our last round of it will continue and go next week. Until Tuesday, guys, I'm Joel Norris signing off. We will see you then. We love you all. We're praying for you all. Guys, if you want to come to know Jesus, contact me on X and or Instagram at Pigskin_Frenzy. Guys, you also have the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Without Jesus, we would not be here. We praise him for giving us the platforms to be doing this show and to put us on this stage to be talking about college football and just to interact with you guys on a weekly basis. We love that. We praise Jesus and we thank him for blessing us again. We give him all the glory and praise for Pigskin Frenzy and blessing us with this show. Guys, we love him and we love you guys. We're praying for you all. You know what to do. Guys, we'll see you Tuesday. As always, have a great weekend and stay the course.